Hello there. On the subject of negative emotions, underneath each one is pain. You know pain? You do very well to try to sense the pain, the wound that is underneath, and then allow that negative emotion to move past you, but feel the pain and honor the message of that pain, because that's really the work that needs to be done. And of course the same with positive emotions, especially those kinds of positive emotions that give you a feeling of strength, because they are wrong work. Now perhaps you're interested in the beautiful green image I've put up, which is the interior of not a mosque but a mausoleum in Shiraz, in Persia. Shah Cheragh is the tomb of Ahmed bin Musa in the center of Shiraz. The tombs became celebrated pilgrimage centers in the 14th century when Queen Tashi Khatun erected a mosque and theological school in the vicinity. Ayatollah Dastghaib used to see light from a distance and decided to investigate the source. He found that the light was being emitted by a grave within a graveyard. The grave that emitted the light was excavated, and a body wearing armor was discovered. The body was wearing a ring saying Izzatu Lillah, Ahmad bin Musa, meaning the pride belongs to God, Ahmad son of Musa. Thus it became known that this was the burial site of the sons of Musa al-Kadim. On the subject of freedom, Gurdjieff says, there is a certain possibility of making a choice of influences, in other words, of passing from one influence to another. To explain how would need a very long talk, said G. So we will talk about this some other time. At this moment I want you to understand one thing. It is impossible to become free from one influence without being subject to another. The whole thing, all work on oneself, consists in choosing the influence to which you wish to subject yourself, and actually falling under this influence. And for this it is necessary to know beforehand which influence is the more profitable. Humanity does not fall under any influence. Or rather, the individuals are not conscious enough to make a choice of influences, so they can be considered, people can be considered to simply be part of the planet's manifestations. They are not really people. They are not really three-brained beings. They're simply part of the surface manifestation of the earth. A person, and you may have seen this, has many faces, and they oscillate from one to another. In fact, I know some people, and it's very clear to me to see how the energy shifts suddenly inside of them, and one face shifts to another. In me, it can be the same. However, there's something different about me, and that the state of consciousness is always present. Now that it's present, it is like a sphere of light is open and permanent inside, and now the job for me is to simply pull into it everything else that was part of this world, at which point this world is dead to me. So human beings are not awake enough to make any choice at all. In fact, I was walking around today and feeling a bit despondent, and a car drove past that had a wooden cross in the window. I took that as a sign. Later on, I was walking around really entertaining some pretty nasty thoughts in my head, and two people, one cyclist and one pedestrian, almost ran me over. I also took those as signs from the earth, because these people are simply part of the earth. There's no point dealing with these people in terms of human rights and the legal system and the separation of powers into the legislative and executive and all that stuff. That's not how the world works. These people are simply part of the surface of the earth, and sometimes they distantly understand something and they make some laws, but nobody follows them. I mean, who even knows the laws? There are hundreds of thousands of laws. Nobody even knows them. Everything's like that. Today I was wondering whose arse I had to kiss in order to make good things happen. Because I don't mind kissing somebody's arse, it's just difficult to know whose arse to kiss. And the people around here don't know either, since they are simply obeying the machine of their society. Gurdjieff says that the nature of the planet Earth obeys higher forces, and so the Earth itself is a slave to higher forces, and people in this society are simply a slave to the Earth. And I was thinking today, maybe the Earth herself has just either given up on human beings or given up on her own development. Maybe it's just too tough for poor planet Earth, and she's lost the bottle. Well, these are all active questions for me. But one thing is for sure, is that you cannot deal with people in terms of them being people. They're not people. I'm not sure what the real rules are, because I don't really know what the Earth wants or what these people need. For instance, I've mentioned this before, but I can be quite quietly spoken, and if I walk up to a bar and I order something, people don't like it. What they like is if I shout in their face, because then they know exactly what they're doing, and it'll allow them to carry on with their mechanical behaviour, and because I've given a bit of welly in there, it gives them a bit of oomph that they can go around. They can go around. That's what they like. In other words, what they like is A, if you can give them a bit of energy, and B, if you assist them to carry on with their mechanical routines. What they hate is any interruption to their routine or any criticism. Like Gurdjieff says, never criticize human beings. Never tell them the truth. Of course, like I said last week, if you do not tell the truth to people, you condemn them to death. But it's simply a reflection of where Earth is. These people are part of the Earth. The Earth can only support a certain amount of awakened people. When politicians talk about saving the planet or something, they don't really understand what they're saying. If they really meant it, they would try to understand what the Earth needs and organize society so that it provided what the Earth herself needs. But they don't recognize any relationship between themselves and the Earth. They don't really know who they are. If you analyze what people in power talk about, they imagine they live free as independent creatures with no relationship to anything. They probably don't even recognize that their body has been given to them. I had another image come to me this week, that this desperation about the climate crisis and running out of energy, it's like society is starting to feel desperate, but it doesn't understand what the problem is, of course, but it starts to feel something is badly wrong. And it's like there is a small window and they all want to get through it, because on the other side is heaven, but the window is shrinking and they become more and more desperate. The pandemic and the pandemonium that's happening in the society at the moment is mankind starting to get quite desperate because that window to heaven, the window to reality, is shrinking. But they have no knowledge. If we think about the decline of the Western world as it is today, there are no roots from which it can grow, since they have declared war in the past, and on nature, and on God. 3 things that could have helped them. Nature being the earth that could have helped them, heaven being heaven. Because we live between heaven and earth, either pole could help you. Western man has declared war on both poles. Moreover, horizontally, their past could help them, but they've declared war on that as well. Now, the only way is down. Now let's read something interesting about death. Essence must awaken to its own identity beyond the personality. The personality cannot withstand death. For it, entering death could be like an astronaut stepping into a black hole. He would instantly vanish and disintegrate. Our real self, if it has evolved sufficiently, can withstand death and reincarnate. See, if you think of people with the many different faces that they have, which one is meant to reincarnate? And via which body? Because the only body they have is the planetary body. So, after the planetary body is finished, where are they all going to go? What will keep them together? Most likely, the person will fragment into the different faces. The different faces represent different inner structures. When you're incarnated as a human being, it is as if the controller of that domain has selected a set of faces or of subconscious characters and stuck them together in a human being. And the human being is based upon a seed. And that is a human being, and you're born, and you start to walk around, and inside you are many different voices, and you are held together by the body and the seed that controls it. And when the body breaks, there's a fragmentation again, and the seed is discarded. So, like I said before, there's not really a loss. So, in a certain way, there's nothing to worry about. But there is a seed that did not flower. For a human being to become awakened, what it means is that enough of those inner characters have fused together through terrible struggle, terrible soul searching, terrible forceful effort to the death, effort of extreme proportion to force them to fuse together. And then when enough of those inner characters are fused, when there is enough integrity, the seed becomes illuminated. And is it possible that somebody who is not awakened and does not have an astral body will survive death? Yes, I think it is possible. And the way it would work is that even if there is no astral body, if there is enough integration amongst the material, then as it is put back into the soup, it will stay together. However, it will have to be incarnated again, and it may not fully stay together. But any work is not wasted. So what that would mean is that there may be somebody who has an intuitive feeling of soulfulness, but does not really reach the awakened level. But they have a certain inner integration. Their inner characters become tied together, and upon the death of the physical body, they go back into the soup, but their characters stay together, or mostly together, and then they're reincarnated as a human being, and hopefully they reach awakening, and they no longer have to go down So, it's always difficult to know who somebody is. Some people who don't seem to be very spiritual or do any practice, they do seem to have something inside of them. But like I said, I would like to know what the fuck I'm supposed to do. Not for myself, because I think I'm alright. But for the earth, for existence, what does anybody want of me? I have no idea. Oh yeah, something else. You hear people these days say that nothing is nothing, everything is everything, there's no seeker, there's no path, there's no teacher, etc. They are talking about the wrong emptiness. You see, there's two kinds of emptiness. There's the emptiness of somebody who didn't begin, and there's the emptiness of somebody who's gone and then returned. Now, it's always been an interesting question for me, a question that I found difficult to pose, but how can we change if we are still ourselves? Because if you're going to change, then it's like you step away from yourself, so how can you remain yourself and still change? Oh, strange question to ask, right? Well, the answer is that you go and you come back, like a sine wave. You go up, and then you go down, and then you return. So you return to the nothingness, but you've taken a great journey, and you are changed. In fact, the sine wave does not include all the information, because the person who takes the journey is not on that graph. It's the identity that is formed through the journey, which is a hidden axis. And this is the answer to many of those ancient Greek paradoxes that they haven't worked out yet. Well, that's the answer. There you go. Enjoy. Now I want to do some new material from Gurdjieff, stuff that I haven't read, and so let's just do it now. But before I start, the reason why I mention this is because of frankincense. When I'm in the church, I can see that they're purifying the altar and the Bible with frankincense. They float clouds of frankincense over the Bible and over you, and they also ring this bell, sanctuary bell. What does it mean? Well, it's a kind of purification. The sound of the bell shakes something off, shakes off the spooks, and the frankincense does the same. The first does it through sound, the second through frankincense, through chemicals. Chemicals are substances that begin to be alive. They're not living creatures. They're beneath that, but they're no longer inert. Chemicals are an interesting layer of existence that is between the mostly inert physical world and the living world. And that means that frankincense is purifying this level that is just at the bottom of life. It's undercutting any dark energies. Interestingly, I was working this out as I left the church a couple of Sundays ago. As I was walking through the streets, a typical English white woman was coming out of her house, completely covered in the now traditional tattoos of God knows what all over her body. England is now completely covered in tattoos, and she had black needles tattooed all over her arms and chest and neck. Really beautiful. And as I walked past her, I shuddered and then shook myself, which I often do these days. And shaking myself, especially in the arms and the chest where I had seen it, this shakes off that dark energy that she's carrying now. And it's a lot like the peal of the bells, the sanctuary bells. You shake it off. But going back to the chemistry question, let's hear what Gurdjieff has to say. Returning to the law of three, one must learn to find the manifestation of this law in everything we do and in everything we study. The application of this law in any sphere at once reveals much that is new, much that we did not see before. Take chemistry, for instance. Ordinary science does not know of the law of three, and it studies matter without taking into consideration its cosmic properties. But besides ordinary chemistry, there exists another, a special chemistry, or alchemy, if you like, which studies matter taking into consideration its cosmic properties. As has been said before, the cosmic properties of each substance are determined first by its place, and secondly by the force which is acting through it at the given moment. Even in the same place, the nature of a given substance undergoes a great change dependent upon the force which is being manifested through it. Each substance can be the conductor of any one of the three forces, and in accordance with this, it can be active, passive, or neutralizing. And it can be neither the first, nor the second, nor the third if no force is manifesting through it at the given moment, or if it is taken without relation to the manifestation of forces. In this way, every substance appears, as it were, in four different aspects of states. In this connection, it must be noted that when we speak of matter, we do not speak of chemical elements. The special chemistry of which I speak looks upon every substance having a separate function, even the most complex, as an element. In this way only is it possible to study the cosmic properties of matter, because all complex compounds have their own cosmic purpose and significance. From this point of view, an atom of a given substance is the smallest amount of the given substance which retains all its chemical, physical, and cosmic properties. Consequently, the size of the atom of different substance is not the same, and in some cases an atom may be a particle even visible to the naked eye. The four aspects or states of every substance have definite names. When a substance is the conductor of the first or the active force, it is called carbon. And like the carbon of chemistry, it is designated by the letter C. When a substance is the conductor of the second or the passive force, it is called oxygen. And like the oxygen of chemistry, it is designated by the letter O. When a substance is the conductor of the third or neutralizing force, it is called nitrogen. And like the nitrogen of chemistry, it is designated by the letter N. When a substance is taken without relation to the force manifesting itself through it, it is called hydrogen, and like the hydrogen of chemistry, it is designated by the letter H. The active, the passive, and the neutralizing forces are designated by the figures 1, 2, 3, and the substance by the letters C, O, N, H. These designations must be understood. Do these four elements correspond to the old four alchemical elements, fire, air, water, earth? Asked one of us. Yes, they do correspond, said G. But we will use these. You will understand why afterwards. What I heard interested me very much, for it connected G's system with the system of the tarot, which had seemed to me at one time to be a possible key to hidden knowledge. Moreover, it showed me a relation of 3 to 4 which was new to me, and which I had not been able to understand from the tarot. The tarot is definitely constructed upon the law of 4 principles. Until now G had spoken only of the law of 3 principles. But now I saw how 3 passed into 4, and understood the necessity for this division so long as the division of forces and matter exists for our immediate observation. 3 referred to force and 4 referred to matter. Of course, the further meaning of this was still obscure for me, but even the little that G said promised a great deal for the future. In addition, I was very interested in the names of the elements carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, hydrogen. I must here remark that although G had definitely promised to explain precisely why these names were taken and not others, he never did so. Later on, I shall return once again to these names. Attempts to establish the origin of these names explain to me a great deal concerning the whole of G's system as well as its history. Well, that's very interesting, but I can't say it meant a lot to me. I'll have to think if I can triangulate any examples of forces acting through material and go from there. I think that is all for this week. I hope you are well. Please do take care.